$38. That's the exact size of your life right now. You have 7 days to survive? 7 days of hunger clawing at your door. You're doing advanced calculus on a loaf of bread that expires at midnight. That $38 isn't money. It's oxygen. And you're running out. You earn $2,600 a month. But by the time the monster is fed, this is what remains. The monster doesn't care about your dreams. It only cares about the loop. If your salary doubled tomorrow, you'd just buy a bigger shovel to dig your own grave. Because the problem isn't the paycheck. It's the prison in your head. 6 a.m. The alarm clock hits you like a physical punch to the face. You walk to the warehouse because even the bus is a luxury that would break you. The warehouse doors slide open like the jaws of a predator. Inside, the air is cold, industrial, and smells like wasted time. Stacking, straining, selling your life one box at a time. Forklifts scream around you. The noise is a constant reminder that you are replaceable. You eat a plain banana in the break room while silhouettes laugh about their debt. Your back is a knot of pain. Your shirt is a map of sweat. You joke with the guys. We're just working to pay for the calories to work again. It's a funny joke until you go home to a room that feels like a coffin. The ceiling leaks. The heater is a lie. You skip dinner so you can afford to walk to work tomorrow. But then, the buzz happens. Your friends call. They talk about freedom. They talk about YOLO. And just like a programmed machine, you follow the signal. $120 gone in 4 hours of loud music and fake smiles. You buy the expensive shoes. You buy the importance. For one night, you aren't a warehouse worker. You're a king on a cardboard throne. But importance has a price. And it's 5% of your entire life's work. A week later, the reality shadow returns. Empty wallet, empty fridge, empty soul. You watch silhouettes drive past in cars you'll never own, and you rot with envy. What you don't see is that they are drowning in the same ocean. They just have better life jackets. One afternoon, the smell of roasting meat from a restaurant nearly breaks you. You check your pocket. $1.50. Barely enough for the bread of shame. You walk away into the dark, asking the ceiling why you even exist. The loop is no longer a pattern. It's a physical weight. Payday, spike, drop, flatline. Repeat until you die. Then Saturday evening, you hear the scream of a life being destroyed. A landlord is throwing a family into the street. It's not business. It's an execution. The tenant is begging. The daughter is hiding in her mother's dress. The landlord yells, "You work every day, but you never planned." Those words don't just land. They explode in your chest. You look at your own worn boots. You look at your own tiny room. That family is just you, with a 3-month head start. Fear becomes your first honest teacher. The next morning, you don't sleep in. You march. You walk to the public library, a place you've only ever seen from the outside. Silence, rows of books that contain the cheat codes to the world. You find it, a title that glows, "Building Wealth on a Small Income." The first sentence is a slap. A small paycheck is not your problem. Your ego is. If you save $20 a week, you aren't saving. You're buying your freedom back. You read that line 3 times. The loop starts to crack. Fear is no longer just a feeling. It's your new manager. Monday morning, you don't hit snooze. You hit back. The public library. To most, it's a building full of dust. To you, it's an armory. You aren't looking for a story. You're looking for a way out. Then you see it. A title that burns through the noise. Building Wealth on a Small Income. The first chapter doesn't offer a hug. It offers a slap. A small paycheck is not your biggest problem. It says, the absence of a plan is. You sit with that sentence for an hour. It's the first honest thing anyone has ever said to you. Then comes the number that changes everything: $20. If you save $20 a week, you aren't just saving cash, you're building an army. When the next payday hits, the signal arrives. Your phone starts screaming. Your friends want to YOLO their way into another month of misery. But tonight, for the first time, you say, no. They laugh. They call you boring. They say you've lost your edge. You tell them you haven't lost your edge. You're just sharpening a new one. That night, the warehouse worker disappears. Chef Max takes his place. You aren't cooking a meal. You're cooking a future. You open a small yellow notebook. This is now the most dangerous weapon you own. You write down every cent, every snack, every wasted minute. You divide your world into 4 envelopes: needs, savings, fun, and the emergency fund. You look at the emergency fund and make a vow. No matter what happens, I don't touch this. You stop thinking in dollars. You start thinking in heartbeats. A pair of $80 shoes is no longer on sale. It's a full 8-hour shift of your life. 8 hours of your youth, gone for leather and rubber. You look at the shoes, then you look at the exit. You walk away a free man. You start noticing how much of your life was a performance for people who don't care. Curating the perfect photo. Timing your spending so they think you're winning. The truth is, they're too busy performing their own lives to even look at yours. The moment you stop performing, the complexity tax vanishes. Your life gets simple, and in simplicity, you find your power. 6 weeks later, the universe decides to test your new spine. Pop. Your bike tire explodes on the way to the warehouse. Then a special bill arrives. A mistake, a tax, a punch to the gut. Your emergency fund, your 6 weeks of discipline, is wiped out in an afternoon. The old Max would have quit. He would have called it bad luck and gone back to the bar. But you aren't the old Max anymore. You're the architect now. You realize the fund did exactly what it was meant to do. It kept you out of the debt pit. You don't panic. You open the notebook to a fresh page. Day 1. Again. But this time, you know the way. You start noticing the older workers at the warehouse, the ones you used to ignore. They drive old cars. They wear worn boots. They never complain about the monster. You used to think they were failures. Now you realize they're the only ones who are actually free. They don't spend their lives performing. They spend their lives sinking. Tuesday, 5:01 a.m. You wake up before the sun, not because you have to, but because you want to. You make your bed. You eat your beans. You read 10 pages. You repeat your mantra, one day at a time, one habit at a time. The warehouse is still loud. The boxes are still heavy. But the monster has lost its teeth. While the others complain during break, you open the yellow notebook. You aren't writing numbers anymore. You're writing blueprints for a side business. A coworker laughs. You think that notebook is going to make you rich. You look him in the eye and say, no, but it's going to stop me from staying poor. The discomfort of seeing the real numbers disappears. You finally have the steering wheel. Every payday now follows a tactical routine. Rent first, needs second. Savings before a single cent is spent on a want. The savings envelope is thin. It feels like a joke. But you don't laugh. You remember the library? Never laugh at small savings. They are seeds of a future forest. Months turn into a season. The warehouse is freezing, but your chest is warm. The loop hasn't just cracked, it's been dismantled. You reach the 6-month mark. For the first time in your life, you aren't afraid of the phone. You realize you aren't rich yet, but you are finally, for the first time, free. Payday is no longer a celebration. It's a tactical operation. The monster waits for you to slip. It wants you to buy that drink. It wants you to buy that jacket. But you've already moved the money before the temptation even clears the room. Rent is paid the second the numbers land. Not a day late. Not an hour late. You live on the bread of the wise. Simple, boring, effective. Your friends see the rice, and they see a failure. You see the rice, and you see an empire. 6 months in, you reach a milestone that feels like a hallucination. The last day of the month arrives, and there is still money in your account. You aren't smiling because you're rich. You're smiling because you're dangerous. You've proven the system. Now you're going to weaponize it. You start a side business. No fancy office, just your table and your grit. While others sleep, you build. While others scroll, you learn. The performance of your old life is officially dead. You don't need the photos. You don't need the likes. You have the numbers. Then comes the second test. The one that breaks most people. A slow season. The business makes zero. The warehouse is your only lifeline again. The monster whispers, "I told you so. Give up. Go back to the bar." But you don't listen to ghosts. You listen to the notebook. You cut your expenses to the bone. You live tighter than you ever have before. You aren't failing. You're just in a defensive crawl. And a crawl still moves forward. One Friday night, an old friend stops you on the street. He looks like $1 million. The watch, the car, the suit. He calls you a ghost. He says you're missing out on the best years of your life. You look past his watch and you see the truth. His eyes are red from lack of sleep. He isn't driving that car. The bank is driving it. He's just the passenger. You realize that your boring life is actually the only one that's real. You reach the 1-year mark. Your emergency fund is no longer an envelope. It's a shield. For the first time in your adult life, the pit in your stomach is gone. You aren't rich, but you are finally a creditor to your own future. You stop working for survival. You start working for acquisition. You find a piece of land. Small, forgotten, perfect. The price is everything you've saved. It's a one-shot moment. Your friends would buy a car. You buy a foundation. You start spending your weekends in the dirt, building with your own claws. It's hard, it's slow, and people passing by think you've lost your mind. But you aren't building a house. You're building an exclusion zone for poverty. One evening, the silence of your land is interrupted by a familiar sound. It's the friend with the shiny car. Except now, the car is a corpse. And he's standing in the rain. He tells you the bank took everything. The performance is over. He asks how you did it, how you stayed safe. You tell him, "I didn't stay safe. I stayed boring." The life hours philosophy isn't a theory anymore. It's your reality. You realize that every dollar you saved was a minute of your future you bought back. You are no longer a slave to the loop. You are the master of the minute. You stop measuring your success by your bank balance. You measure it by your peace. The warehouse feels different now. The boxes are still heavy, but they don't feel like anchors. They feel like the fuel for your second life. You wake up at 5:01 a.m. This is your holy hour. You don't check your phone. You check your soul map. 10 pages of wisdom. A simple meal. A silent promise to yourself. You are becoming a version of yourself that the loop cannot catch. A version that doesn't need external applause to feel important. You realize that the greatest luxury in the world is not a car or a watch. It's the ability to say no to things that steal your time. Wealth is not about what you have. It's about what you don't have to do. The successful afternoon is no longer a dream. It's a scheduled event. You reach the end of the second year. Your side business has its first profitable month. It's small. It's humble. And it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Because this isn't warehouse money. This is wisdom money. Now, you are no longer a worker in a machine. You are the architect of your own world. Years don't just pass, they stack. like golden bricks in a wall that poverty can no longer climb. Your side business isn't a hustle anymore. It's a sovereign state. While the world chased the next big thing, you stayed faithful to the small boring thing. You reach the point where the math stops being a struggle and starts being a symphony. Then comes the day you've been building toward since that rainy Saturday on the sidewalk. You don't just have a key. You have an end of the war certificate. You walk into your own living room. The silence is the loudest thing you have ever heard. You remember the hunger. You remember the counting of coins for a loaf of bread. You realize that every $20 you didn't spend on a performance was a brick in this house. You close your eyes and whisper, "Thank you," to the version of you that didn't quit. A few months later, your mother arrives. She's never seen a room you didn't have to share. She touches the walls like she's checking if they're real. She tells you she used to stay awake at night, terrified that your life would always be a struggle. You tell her the struggle was just the gym. This is the result. You don't just own a house. You own your time. You run into the shiny car friend one last time. The car is gone. The watch is gone. The ego is shattered. He asks for the secret. He wants the big play, the magic move. You show him your yellow notebook. It's covered in dirt and coffee stains. It's beautiful. You tell him, there was no big play, just 1,000 small ones done in the dark. He looks at the notebook like it's a foreign language. He isn't ready to be boring yet. You don't judge. You just remember the sidewalk. You become a landlord yourself. But you're a different kind of master. When a tenant is scared, you don't scream. You listen. You remember that a paycheck can be a prison, but a plan is the key. You help them build their own notebooks. You help them dismantle their own loops. The warehouse worker is a legend now, a ghost story for poverty. Saving $20 isn't math, it's a rebellion. Cooking your own dinner isn't a chore, it's a declaration of independence. The hardest part was never the money. It was the solitude of being the only person in the room who refused to pretend. Most people are terrified of being boring. You used boring as a weapon. A low salary is a cage, only if you stay in the middle of it. The moment you start your plan, the cage starts to melt. Your income didn't change first. Your soul did. You stopped being a consumer and started being an owner. Wealth isn't a single payday. It's 1,000 no's to things that don't matter. It's 1,000 yeses to your own future. You don't need a miracle. You just need a notebook and a little bit of hate for the loop. The loop is weak. It only survives if you feed it. You stopped feeding it. You started feeding your freedom. One habit at a time. One saved dollar at a time. One heartbeat at a time. You don't need to earn millions to start. You just need to start to earn millions. Become faithful with the $38, and the $2,600 will follow. A paycheck feeds you for 30 days. Wisdom feeds you for 1,000 years. The warehouse loop is a choice. Every single morning. Choose the plan. Choose the discomfort. Choose the freedom. Because the monster is already waiting for your next paycheck. Will you feed it? Or will you starve it? Your different future is exactly one decision away. Choose wisely.